Henry and Gordon were feeling lonely lately ever since Thomas and Twilight had left Knapford Yard to run the Farquhar branch. They missed them very much, but they had more work to do and had to fetch their own coaches. The big engines thought they were too important to fetch coaches. James started to grumble too.
We get no rest, we get no rest.
But their pony friends just laughed and called them lazy and slack. Altogether, the engines were giving Sir Topham Hatt a great deal of problems. The big stations at Knapford and Vicarstown at both ends of the line each have a turntable. Sir Topham had put them there so that tender engines can be turned around because it's dangerous for them to run fast backwards. But tank engines like Thomas don't need turntables. They can go backwards quite easily as well as forwards. But if you hear Gordon talking while resting, you would have thought Sir Topham had given him a tender just to show how important he was.
You don't understand, little Thomas. We tender engines have a position to keep up. You haven't a tender, that makes a difference. It doesn't matter where you go, but we are important. And for Sir Topham Hatt to make us shunt trucks, fetch coaches, and go on some of those dirty sidings, it's not the proper thing.
Oh, please.
Thomas and Twilight just chuckled and ran off with Annie and Clarabelle behind them. Later, when Gordon arrived at Tidmouth's to be turned around, he was still grumbling.
Disgraceful, disgraceful.
The turntable at Tidmouth's was built in a windy spot close to the Sudrian Sea, and if he wasn't put on it just right, he put it out of balance and made it difficult to turn. But today, Gordon was in a very bad mood, and the winds were blowing fierce at their highest peak. Rainbow Dash tried to make him stop in the right position, but Gordon wasn't really trying. Finally, after a long time of getting the big engine positioned correctly, a yard worker tried to turn the handle, but Gordon's weight and the strong winds prevented him from doing the task. This made Rainbow Dash very upset.
It's no good, you fat express engine. Your tender upsets the balance. If you were a tank engine like Thomas, you'd be okay. Now we'll have to pull the next train backwards.
Come on, quick. There's a new tank engine. Oh, what a switch. It's only gone back to front.
Hello, Rainbow Dash. Is Gordon playing tank engines? Some sensible engine he is. Tell him to take my advice by scrapping his big tender and have a nice bunker like me.
But Gordon just said nothing. Even James and Rarity laughed when they saw him facing backwards.
Take care, you might stick too.
Never fear, Gordon. I'm not so large and fat as you.
Later, James went to Tidmouth's to be turned around so it could be ready for his next train.
Gordon may be right. I mustn't stick.
Then Rarity stopped him on just the right spot to balance the table. It could now swing easily. Gordon and Rainbow Dash arrived in time to see everything. James was turning much too easily because he was less heavier than Gordon is. And the wind spun him round like a top, and he couldn't stop.
Well, are you playing roundabouts?
Well, I heard of being taken for a spin, but this is ridiculous.
Poor James, feeling quite dizzy, rolled into Tidmouth's without saying anything else. Later that night, the three big engines had an indignation meeting.
It's shameful to treat tender engines like this. I have to go backwards and people think I'm a tank engine. James spins round like a top and everyone laughs at us. And added to that, Sir Toberman makes a shunt on dirty sidings. Ugh. Listen,
He whispered his plan to the others.
we'll do it tomorrow. Sir Topham Hatt will look silly.
The engines have decided to do something that was above the limits by simply going on strike. And how do they do it? Well, that's going to have to wait until next time. One morning, Sir Topham Hatt was sitting in his office at
Quiet out there!
to a disturbing commotion outside. The passengers were complaining and were furious. Just then, the station master came in.
There's trouble in the shed, sir. Henry is sulking. There's no train, and the passengers are saying this is a bad railway.
Goodness gracious. We can't allow that happening on the Northwestern Railway. I'll send in Fluttershy and go talk to Henry right away.
When he got to the sheds, he found Gordon, James, and Henry looking very cross. Fluttershy soon came just in time, too.
Sorry I'm late. I kind of overslept. When I heard about this, I came here as fast as my wings could carry me.
Never mind now. We're just glad you got here in time. Come along, Henry. Fluttershy's already here. It's time you two got your train ready.
Step away from Henry's car this instant.
Huh? Gordon, why can't I go with Henry?
Henry's not going. We are all on strike.
Strike? But why?
Isn't it obvious? We won't shunt like common little tank engines. We are important tender engines. You fetch our coaches and we will pull them. Tender engines don't shunt.
That's the most silliest excuse I've ever heard on this railway.
Fluttershy's got a point. No engine on my railway is too important for small jobs like shunting.
Well, we blooming well are, let me tell you. We're not going anywhere until another engine is present to fetch our coaches. And that's final. Do you get me? Final. Make yourself smart and sort off.
Oh, really? We'll see about that, you lazy engines.
Then he rushed off to the yard to find Edward and Applejack.
That front yard exhibited the same since Thompson traveled left around the far bar branch line.
When he got there, he found them at work busy shunting.
Leave those freight cars where they are, please, Edward. I want you and Applejack to push coaches at Knapford Yard for me.
You know, we sure can use a break from shunting cars. What do you think, Daddy?
Thank you, sir. That will be a nice change.
That's a good engine. Now off you go, you two.
So Edward and Applejack found coaches for the big engines, and on that day, the train schedule was back on track as usual. But next morning, when Sir Topham had brought Pinkie Pie to see Edward, he looked very unhappy. Gordon then came clanking past, hissing rudely at him.
Sweet Celestia! What a scary noise!
Sorry about that, Pinkie. Hey, Edward, what's going on here?
They all hiss me, sir. They say tender engines don't shunt. And last night they said I had black wheels. It's kind of funny coming from James, but that's not the point. I haven't, have I, sir?
What? That must be the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Pinkie Pie's got a point, Edward. You have nice blue ones, and I'm always proud of you. Tender engines really do shunt no matter how big or small they are. My engines on this railway all have equal jobs, but it appears that those big engines are just being stuck up.
May I make a suggestion, sir? I think we need another tank engine for this railway. And fast. If not, the strike will continue for the worst.
You know, Edward, You might be right. And you've just given me a brilliant idea. Hey, Pinky, I have a special task.